Hey, it's Aaron.
And it's Kristen.
And this is Drive Mode Show.
Woohoo! Welcome back. Happy New Year, Aaron.
Yeah, happy new house.
Thank you. I have a much better background now.
Anybody notice? Yeah, different background over there. Wait, it's this direction. Different background over there. Kristen now has an office.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's so nice with all my car stuff all around me, and it's fun.
cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, today we're going to talk about something that has to do with houses and families,
And minivans.
minivans, or MPVs.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
MPVs, because the word minivan carries so much stigma.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know why.
if you've watched the channel for a while, you've probably seen my Kia Carnival review where I very, very carefully kept telling myself not to say minivan. Kia just calls it an MPV,
Don't
which
say minivan. Don't say
still
minivan. Don't
I have
say
no idea
minivan.
what that's supposed to mean. Most player valuable, most
Most prolific van.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't see what the deal is. Like, I mean, it's a SUV in a different shape, really.
Yeah, in most ways. It's also, in my opinion, the most versatile vehicle you can buy. Even more versatile than a pickup truck. So, uh, in fact, my family owns one. There you go, minivans. Um, so let's start with how about let's see, we could do this alphabetically, but then we'd have to like list them and think about it. So let's start with we already said Kia, so let's just start there. Let's start with the Kia Carnival now. Used to be called the Sedona.
Yes, you're right, but it's different as the Carnival.
Very different. So, what is your impression of that one?
So what I like about the Carnival is that it has Kia efficiency. It has the Kia warranty, which I really like, 5 years. And it also, I like Kia's audio system. I think, it's really grown on me too. I
Mhm.
like that they leave the volume button, the tuner knob. There's really good steering wheel controls, and it's easy to set your favorites and to deactivate your favorites. On Mazda, I'm always like, where is it? Can't figure it out. And I also like the reclining seats in the middle. I mean, I think they did a really nice job from the comfort perspective.
I like that. I like those things, plus the fact that Kia does little things like if you have the seat heater on, shut the engine off and leave, come back and start it back up, seat heater starts back up. Um, it remembers those little things, those little tiny ergonomics that make it feel good, right? Like it's your car. I My favorite thing about it is out of all of the minivans on the market right now, it's the only one, it's one of the only V6 powered minivans left. There's only two of them now. I think everybody else is a four-cylinder at this point. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that's true. But the biggest thing is the V6 feels like a V6. So it has that power pole that runs for a long plateau like a six really should. So it never feels like it can't do something. It always feels confident. It's a really nice powertrain setup they have going with it, and longest warranty in the business for that powertrain, which is a huge plus. I also like the storage areas. I like the storage up front and in the middle, but I really like the cargo space storage. Um, Very useful, and one of the few where the rear seats, when you fold them into that tub, the third row, it's actually flat with with the tailgate. So there's no dip or anything like that. It's flat, which makes
Yeah, and that's key.
makes loading things really good. Um, Towing is, it's average for the segment. I think it's 3,500 pounds. I don't think I would ever tow with a minivan. Our minivan, we have a trailer hitch on it, but I tow like a tiny, tiny little trailer occasionally, but mostly you want that trailer hitch for expansion. You want to be able to put that tray and your cooler on it, or your bike racks, or those things, so you're not putting them in it. So yeah, there's the Carnival. What do you think of the Chrysler Pacifica?
The Pacifica has always been my favorite historically.
Mhm.
And they've done such a nice job with it over the years, especially when you get I think it's the pinnacle trim is at the top, where it comes with the plush pillows and, some things you don't necessarily need. But it's nice to have. They really do a beautiful job with the interior. I've taken road trips in the Pacifica, and
Mhm.
it's just been comfortable the whole way. I drove 2 days straight myself, stopping to sleep, but I never got back issues or back pain. I never felt that achiness that sometimes you feel on a road trip in the Chrysler Pacifica.
Yeah. Uh, so the Pacifica is the not really new, but now new version of what used to be the best-selling minivan, the Town and Country from Chrysler. The Cadillac of minivans, if you're into Get Shorty, and it's a movie reference. But
Right.
anyway, the Pacifica took over from that and restyled in a big way. It's a very, very good looking van. Uh, has a kind of a beautiful look to it, that with kind of a sleek nose, and they flowed the lines really, really nicely. I love the fact that all the seats fold into the floor, unless you have the plug-in hybrid. Otherwise, all the seats fold into the floor,
Right.
which gives you a completely flat loading space. The center console can pop out, so you can lift it out if you need to use all that space. Lots of nice little thoughts for those things. Uh, the problems I have with the Pacifica now are just due to its age, because it right now is the oldest van on the market in terms of when it was last upgraded. It's I think it was 2016 was when it was last upgraded, was when this current generation came. Um, there are just a few things that show that date. So it's not as performance hungry or good as the Carnival, but they still have um, the same fuel economy. So you could be getting more for that same fuel economy, is what I'm saying. Uh, and it's some of the just interior components feel a little out of date now, but I love the infotainment in it. Um, the newest one, this is actually the Pacifica, is where they debuted the newest, where Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, et cetera, Stellantis, where they debuted this newest system. Kristen and I were there. Remember that?
We were.
Yeah,
Yep.
we got to fiddle with it in Chicago, and one of the people who was part of that team, explained it all to us. Beautiful, beautiful system. And turning radius. I don't think any of the other vans have as tight a turning radius. Um, and it's because of
Huh.
the way Chrysler worked the front end. So it can turn a certain amount at speed, but at lower speeds, it can turn even more. So you end up with, I can do a U-turn in the two-lane street in front of my house with it. So that's
Wouldn't it be interesting if the Chrysler Pacifica had the Hyundai Mobion concept where it basically like spins in place because
yeah.
all four tires can be
Or like
individually
the
set.
Land Rover Range Rover's tank drive. Have you seen that? See that in action? Where you
Yeah,
break one side and you can spin in a circle?
so cool.
Which is funny because I always call that tractor drive, but
Same, same.
where you
Yeah, I
grew.
think the Pacifica is still a beautifully done vehicle. Wouldn't it be fun if it had a Hellcat engine in it? But it's not going to happen. They're not going to put a Hurricane in it. They're not going to put a
No,
Hellcat. That's not what people want. Aside from us, couple crazy people, but
I
the
lobbied
market
pretty
doesn't really
hard.
want that.
I lobbied pretty hard to have a Pacifica Hellcat. Plug-in
Yeah.
hybrid Pacifica Hellcat. I was like, look, you can totally justify this thing.
Sell it, Aaron, sell it. I think you're right about the infotainment. I love the behind the steering wheel controls. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Jeep has that as well. And I think I think the Pacifica is still a very comfortable drive, but I agree with you. It's about time for an upgrade.
Hmm. It's also worth pointing out that as of right now, The Pacifica is the only Chrysler vehicle. The 300 went out of production, so there are no other Chryslers at this moment. There's some coming, but at this moment, there's
True.
only one. So next up, Toyota Sienna. What do you think?
Okay. When you mentioned the cargo space that you liked in the Kia Carnival, my thoughts turned to the Toyota Sienna right away because I think the Sienna, the way the cargo space is set up is really smart. They've got the console, the under the console space. They've got plenty of cup holders. I really like the way they laid out the Sienna. I think their new infotainment is light years ahead of where it was before, but I still like the infotainment system better in the Kia and in the Chrysler.
Yeah, Toyota's infotainment has jumped really far compared to itself, but compared to the rest of the market, it's kind of catching up. It's not better than, it's catching up to. Um,
Yeah.
my favorite thing about the Sienna is that it's hybrid by default. So the fuel economy is phenomenal in that. Hitting 30 mpg is pretty easy to do in that van, which is nuts because it's a minivan, right? It's big. Um, what I don't like the most is the design. I don't like the look of it. The front
Hmm.
nose, I feel, is a little too short. It cuts off too fast. Um, and it feels like they were torn between trying to make a sort of SUV crossover look and staying with a van. And it was like they argued, and somebody was like, "Well, I'm going to do the front end like an SUV, you do the back end like a van or whatever." And they just sort of compromised too much as far as the look. But interior is beautiful. It's a wonderful interior, really, really well done. And like you said, the storage is top notch, which is a big deal. It's a big part of
Yeah.
and the drive quality is good. It's not quite as good as the Kia, but there's no time in the Toyota you're ever going to feel like it's not going to make it either. It always feels good. And then you have the all-wheel drive options and everything else that you also get with Chrysler. We forgot to mention that, but it's a nice setup. It's a good van. I'm just not a big fan of the infotainment or the look of it.
Hmm. Okay, so I like the look of the Sienna for those reasons that you don't, which is funny. I remember them talking about how they designed the front end to look more like a crossover from the front so that people wouldn't think minivan, out of the blue. It is a minivan though, like own it. But I think the drive
Yeah.
is as good as the Kia Carnivals, and I do like the way it feels. I like that I know the Toyota engine will last forever, so I feel like Kia's really caught up on that as well. So I think the drives felt pretty comparable to me.
The reason I picked the Carnival over the Sienna for drive quality is because the V6 is such a smooth performer, and it makes nice sounds when you shut the accelerator down. You don't get that out of the others. With the
True.
six-cylinder that's in the Toyota, you can't get it. And with the Chrysler, I feel like despite it being related to Dodge and Jeep, they really tried to muffle that engine a lot. And I don't think they needed to.
Hmm.
If the sound was a little better, I might forgive the Chrysler for it taking a while to shift. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there are a handful of vehicles now that have uh, where you shift from, say, reverse to drive, and it takes that half a second to do it.
Right.
So you feel like for that moment, you feel stuck, like, right? Because at that point, you've just backed into the street or something. So
Right.
I've felt it in other vehicles that aren't vans, Subarus and stuff. And it's just a thing that happens. And it's because some of it is because I'm from the generation of, you're yanking the thing around the whole time you're driving. And
I
you
just want to
expect
turn that into like a meme.
it. uh, So you expect that instant response. As soon as you do it, it should be doing it. Um, and so some of the more modern vehicles now, that's not as important. Drivers now are more willing to pull out and wait and do that. That's kind of, I've noticed that kind of stuff doesn't bother them. My wife never has this issue. She doesn't think about it. This is no big deal for her, um, to have that wait. So that was an annoyance that I had in the Chrysler that I didn't have in the Kia, um, which is weird because our minivan is also a Kia. It's an older Sedona, and it does that lag. Like there is that
Huh.
little bit of a wait. One of the reasons I don't, well, I don't drive it very often because I always have a press car, but it's Heather's primary car and it is our road trip mobile. So I drive it a lot for that. But yeah, so Toyota, what was the next one? Honda. What do you think of that?
Honda Odyssey, yes. Gosh, that one's been around forever. My sister's had at least two, like back to back. She has loved them for all these years with her three girls.
Yeah, so the Odyssey has a cool design. So it doesn't look like the other three vans on this list. It's a very different looking van in terms of just its overall style. Um, it's a little more, I would say, upscale is the word to use. It looks a little richer for some reason, whatever it is, just the overall design. The interior is good. I don't think it's as good as Toyota or Kia, um, but it is a good interior, and it has cool little things in it that now are considered fairly normal, but Honda is the one who debuted them. The interior cabin monitors, so those the camera that's in,
Family cams.
yeah, that has, I have a picture somewhere, I'll try to find it, of my kids in the back seat going, whoa, because it was the night vision version, right, of that camera. Um, and the interior speaker where you can talk into the Bluetooth speaker above you and it projects it. Honda also debuted that. Um, Lately, though, there hasn't been a whole lot of change to this van. It's kind of like it's similar to the Pacifica. It's good, but it's not like it. There's nothing you can point at that says this is great.
Agreed, agreed. I think it's also time for the Odyssey to get a facelift.
Hmm.
And maybe they're waiting to see kind of what happens with powertrains. And I just did a whole bunch of research on hydrogen this week.
Hmm.
Hydrogen's got a long way to go, but what's going to happen when they get solid state battery? What's going to happen when hydrogen, if and when hydrogen becomes more mainstream? So who knows what'll happen? But I think that I think Honda's still committed to its Odyssey or something like it.
Yeah, the for Honda, I think it's the minivan market as a whole. It's not a fast-growing market. It's a pretty steady market. And for a long time, everybody thought it was dying. But it hit a point and then it just has been steady since with very slow growth. So I think Honda might be just analyzing, is it worth it at this point? Because they're actually, if you look at the numbers, I believe they're the slowest seller. So out of the four. So it would make sense that they would go, and so that gives them the option to do two things: drop out of the market entirely or do something exceedingly spectacular and take a big chunk of it, right? So do you take the risk or do you not, or do you just forget it and cut your losses? And I think Honda is the kind of company that would run the risk. They'd be careful about it, but I think they would run the risk. And I would really like to see that. I would also like to see um, Hyundai come back into the market because we talked earlier about the Pinnacle trim for the Pacifica, which is, as far as I know, that is the only luxury minivan. I can't think of another trim point in the others that meets that. With
That's true.
extra little pillows, the extremely well done upholstery, just the beauty that they threw into that. And I think that Hyundai could definitely jump into that market and do it really well and base it off of Kia's Carnival. So it would be pretty simple to do. And but I think you have a point about powertrains. So I think there's a lot of what's going to happen with that. Maybe
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think Hyundai could do, if Hyundai would, I don't think Genesis would put out a minivan. It's not in their brand.
no.
But I think Hyundai could with the influence of Genesis. Genesis inspired minivan. I don't know. I think the market's still there.
Hyundai's already a pretty upscale brand. So comparatively, sort of in the same way that Mazda is. So they're
That's true.
fairly upscale. And so I could totally see them doing it. So yeah. And
Minivans.
the idea that now we need to do a show on upcoming powertrain options,
Let's do it.
stuff that's happening. Yeah.
Talk about that next time.
All
Meanwhile, that's our take on minivans.
It is. This is Aaron.
This is Kristen.
And this is Drive Mode Show. The whole time we forgot to tell you to subscribe.